The Ring. It's an ominous sounding name, and it should be. A circuit that has stood as one of the most daunting tests of driving prowess for nearly a century deserves a reputation such as that. But modern Grand Prix racing has merited modern changes, and though we mourn the fact that we won't get to see today's F1 car circle the jaw-dropping 12-mile Nordschleife, we celebrate the fact that the modern GP course brings the sounds of Formula One to the Eifel Mountains once again. Who can add a win at the ring to their stats? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 3 of the iRacing Grand Prix Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Sean Ambrose. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, who once legally changed his middle name to Peanut Butter, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sean, we talk about the GP course being the modern side of the Nürburgring, but really at 30 years old now, I wouldn't exactly call it new either. Tell us about this layout.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it new either. Let's say the pavement is probably well seasoned at this point. But you know, back in the 1980s, the Nordschleife was classified as unsafe for Formula One. So it tracked in an effort to get them back to the Eifel, then the track that we have here today. Was constructed 3.2 miles, 5.15 kilometers, 16 turns on this circuit. It was extended in 2001 by adding the Mercedes Arena area to the track. But the circuit is about somewhere between 10 and 25 meters wide, featuring I think it's 7 left and 10 right turns. But we debate that is because some of these really I don't think are turns. They're just high speed, small kinks in this track. But the Nürburgring is of essential importance for Germany's history of motorsport and also one of the most popular national monuments in the country. Now, while many traditionalists refuse to accept this new track, clinging to a nostalgic past not likely to return, let's let you draw your own conclusions as we take a lap around the modern Nürburgring's Grand Prix circuit.
All right, we've got Harrison Finch and the GSRC MP4-30, so let's do a lap around the Nürburgring. Coming down to turn 1, expect a number of drivers to lock up the right front coming into here. Anyone without VR or triple screens may find it hard to be accurate with the apex or avoid tangling with another car trying to pass you. But you've got no time to rest because right away you're chucked into the Mercedes Arena. This is mostly a series of winding, slow corners, so throttle control and good mechanical grip will be key to a good lap time through here. The transition from 3 to 4 in particular can prove a bit frustrating to keep the car on the racing line. Then, from out of there, you've finally got a bit of a stretch down to Valvoline, but this left-hander has surprisingly little braking. There's a lot of camber to help you carry your speed, but it's also kind of a compromise as you run into forward. The important thing is to be smooth and confident on the power so that you're not vulnerable into the Dunlop hairpin. This is another corner with an unusual amount of banking for a road course, and yet it's still very hard to pass around the outside. From there, the Schumacher S isn't going to be quite flat out. But don't be afraid to ride the curves because the downforce on this car will keep you absolutely glued. Then switch sides quickly because you're going to be braking for 11, where you might occasionally see surprise attacks. But don't worry about that turn as much because the real important one is Bilstein. Hesitate with the gas when you're coming off this right-hander and it's going to leave you very susceptible into the final chicane. Other than turn 1, this is really the only ideal place for an overtake. I just wouldn't advise trying to clatter through here too wide. At last, there's the final turn. Be sure to practice your pit entry so that you don't have an embarrassing slide into the Armco. This is another one where the exit needs all of your focus to keep you safe from an attack. In the end, hopefully, you've now finished a lap around the Nürburgring.
They see a lap around the modern ring. As Sean said, still puts on quite a great facility, quite a great lap around here, and it's got its own history at this point. Now, we also have a history of a championship to go over with 2 rounds done, this being round 3. Let's take a look at the driver points. Harrison Finch now has him up at the top, and Manu Domingo slots in the second now. Kevin Fortman, Matteo Calistani, and Nicholas Rasmussen are a long ways back. But it is a long season, and they do have 4 drop weeks, so expect that this is not already season over for those drivers farther down in the championship. We might have viewers who've never watched one of these iRacing Grand Prix Series races, Sean. So what are they up against on round 3 today?
Well, Joe, they're up against quite a bit here, and you know, I love this Grand Prix circuit. I know many are not a fan of it, but honestly, it always works for me. I always love coming to Germany. This is round 3 of 12, of course. It's an open setup, Joe, and these drivers have worked very hard. There's a lot to tweak on the McLaren, and you better have a good button box or a lot of keys open on your keyboard to manage those adjustments. Today, 40 laps, 1 stop. Seems like about 30 minutes in is where they've been stopping, but you know, strategy comes into play here. They don't get to take on any more fuel. If you're not familiar with the series, they start with what will get them to the end, and that involves strategy and part of the car setup. So plenty to look out for there, and plenty of spots on track to do some overtaking. Turn 1, the Dunlop curve. Turn 11, the final chicane, a great spot to make that last dash to pick up points in what I guess that would be turns 14 and 15 there, that last chicane.
Certainly a little bit difficult in other places to try to make an overtake. They do have the DRS to help them out here. Now, looking at the qualifying, I see Jorge Montañez currently up at the top. Calistani, who we saw have a good performance last week on old tires, has put his car into second.
Yeah, that was an impressive run on that old rubber. And tell you what, if he can get that out of this track today, that might be a tremendous advantage. But it's going to be awful tough here, Joe. This track very hard on the tires.
Certainly true. As we watch Frederick Vesti work his way around, going through the Dunlop hairpin. He does not have a set time yet, and he's running out of time to try to get a lap in with only a scant 2 and some minutes left. This is in qualifying here. They do get 8 minutes, even though it is the shorter course and it takes a while to load the Nürburgring for most drivers. They do not get an extended qualifying in this series. Now, one special thing about this series is that it is a crowd-funded series, so the community comes together to try and fund this, to put it on air, which we incredibly appreciate. So let's take a look at some of the proud members that have put money in towards making this happen, and a huge thank you to these drivers and teams who have come together to try to bring this broadcast to air. So thank you to you folks, and we hope to come back next season as well, and are looking forward to, as we see today's race, as we see our driver there having a bit of a problem on pit entry. Stefan Schmidt for Affinity Racing coming around through the Mercedes arena. He sits without a time as well, actually.
Yeah, a lot of drivers only have 1 lap in right now.
Now, we have a difference to the start that we had last week, Sean, already, because there was a patch that iRacing put out. First of all, they worked on the regen that they have under braking. I know that was an issue last week that we observed with the drivers. But the big one is the clutch. There is a more realistic clutch simulation that they've got on these cars.
Yes, and hopefully drivers who take advantage of a little bit of time to practice that, because the standing starts can be very tricky. This car, no different in the level of excitement that can be caused when that green light comes on. It'll be fun to watch, as that this will be our first experience with that today.
And of course, the big difference that I've been talking about is that before they had a single clutch in the sim, but now, just like the real world, it is a dual clutch that you need to use to get these cars off the line. As Sean said, drivers better have been practicing, or they're in for a surprise when they try to get the car going.
Well, and what I fear is that somebody might get run over, right?
Which we saw last week, actually.
Yeah, not being able to get underway can be a big problem when your competitors right behind you there. You see, watching Tommy Ostergaard there up to P2 with that run
beautiful
there, Joe.
lap. A 1:30.1, just a 10th off our pole time. That's good enough to get him onto the front row. And I believe we will only have 2 cars that do not get a lap in, Benjamin Lindsay and Rob Bower. But let's go through our grid. Jorge Montañez starts on the pole with Tommy Osgard completing the front row. Matteo Calistani will start from 3rd. Let's see if he can have a little bit better race this week. Kevin Fortman starts in 4th with Nicholas Rasmussen starting 5th and Jan Brezina in 6th. Then it's Peo Pieve starting in 7th, Luca Furlick in 8th, and Evan Lathoris in 9th. Rounding out the top 10, it's going to be Frederick Vesti.
Okay, and starting 11, it's going to be Vlad Tokarev, and Ryan Parkin's going to start 12th. Tanguy Pedrozzoli is going to start 13th. Stefan Schmidt, 14th. Ali Cuoca with us today. He'll start 15th. Benjamin Lindsay, 16th, and Rob Bower, 17. 17 cars. We had a split today, Joe. Big points at stake here.
Absolutely. These drivers use this as their strength of field race, so this broadcast means a lot, not only to get to be seen winning the race, but also take home the main haul of points over the course of the week as we wait for the cars to grid up. Now, I wish it was an April Fool's that I sound this stuffed up, but no, I really am sick right now, so my apologies to the viewers having to deal with my less than stellar voice this weekend. As we look at one of the Affinity cars, we saw it last week. The teams can come into play. We'll see if it affects the race this time. A number of them out there. Just a couple more cars that we're waiting to get out onto the grid, and I think that is everybody actually now. As the lights come up here at the Nürburgring for round 3, green flag is out. Jorge has a great start over the second place car of Osgard, and we've got almost a 4 wide back in the field. A bit of a spin, somebody gets turned. That looks like that's Kevin Fortman. Several. And then the car of Jan Brezina involved in that.
Yeah, Jan Brezina. Oh, battle up there for P2 already. Calistani going to second. Ostergaard fighting him hard here, Joe.
And it looks like as it switches back into Valvoline, I think Calistani is going to have the inside. Can he get it done before Ford? The answer is no. Osgard still fending him off, still side by side. This is allowing Jorge to run away with it. And finally, Osgard seems like he's got a nose ahead. He's going to have to finish the job here into Dunlop now. Eventually, after what was an exciting first few quarters, Osgard manages to hold on to second.
Boy, Joe, and they're still battling hard here at the back of the field. Benjamin Lindsay coming up several spots here off the start, trying to complete this first lap.
Now, thankfully, despite the tangle into the first corner, everybody was able to get their car going once again. We'll see if everybody surpasses the pits, though, because they could still have some damage. In fact, why don't we take a look at that replay? Like I said, Fortman and Brezina, I think Vlad Tokarev perhaps involved in that. Sean, this is always a worry into that first corner with the way that it's so sharp. It can be a bit blind if you're on a single model.
Yeah, and it looks like it was Brezina, honestly. Joe, the car turned left. He was on the inside, and see that? I think he got some of the white stripe and some of the curb there. It kicks the car left, and boy, melee unfolds there. But it looks like you said, everybody made it through.
He tried to be brave and stick his nose in at a very small gap, and it just did not pay off, sadly. We come back live. In fact, Brezina already hustling to try and get his car back through. He was working on Benjamin Lindsay for 14th. Couldn't quite make it past.
Yeah, and I think the damage to that left wing might be an issue for Jan. He's going to fight that until he gets into the pit. If he continues to lose speed, he may have to bring her in early, but we'll see here, Joe.
Already on lap 2 out of 40 in this race. Not as long as last week, not a full-length Grand Prix distance. And we're seeing cars start to spread themselves out as they try to get a piece of track. This should be where the DRS starts. This front stretch will be the first chance for them to try and use it, Sean.
Yeah, Joe, and then they'll get the final chance out of the final turn up across the start-finish line. You've got to be 1 second, within 1 second to enable that DRS. Right now, the cars are still pretty close.
First car that's going to get it is Calistani, but he's pretty far away from Rasmussen. In fact, the car behind him, Vesti, much closer, but with both of them getting DRS, they end up at a stalemate. Checking to see if anybody else makes a move. Ooh, looks like Peeve got passed by Quokka into that.
He did. Quokka pulled off a really, really smart move down the front stretch, enabled that DRS, and was able to just get right around him.
With this being a shorter race as well, I'm curious to see how tire strategy works out. Now, unlike the real-world F1, they do not have to use 2 different compounds. There is only a single compound, and the pit stop is actually not required. Now, if anybody can go to the end on a single set of tires, Sean, I will be stunned.
I'll buy him dinner, Joe.
Frederick Vesti really our closest fight up at the top. Still trying to work on Calistani. He's about 4/10 back at the moment, really hassling as we ride on board with Calistani. We know that he can take tires quite a distance as they come out of Bilstein. Up through the kink towards that final chicane. Doesn't look like Vesti is going to be able to have a go. He's going to stick his nose in. He's just a little bit too far back. Just a cursory move to see what this car is capable of.
I thought he was going to send it. I'm like, oh, this is not going to work.
It looked like it for a second. I just thought he was way too far back. Now he's close, though, Sean.
Yeah, here we go. Hitting that DRS zone now. Flattens out the wing, and then the fight is on.
Mateo knows it. Can we see an over-under here? He's going to try it, but he's going to be on the wrong side for the entry into the Mercedes arena. Calistani fends him off for now. A little of a peak of the second quarter in that infield section. Going back to Quokka. Looks like he had an issue. That sends him all the way to the back of the 17-car field. Do you have some contact in there?
I think he got a little bit of help.
Oh, yeah, he did.
It looked like that was, it was Peeve, actually, that got in him.
Yep, once again, that sharp first quarter bit 2 cars trying to go side by side. Watching from the VRT e-racing machine. Oh, he was way off the apex, though. He was given quite a bit of room. I could understand if Quokka was a bit peeved about that move.
Wow, okay, I've just got no response for that, Joe. I don't know how to respond to that.
Oh, and we missed it. Vesti has since gotten past Calistani. Checking to see if I can find where that move was. It was down into Dunlop, so about half a lap ago. He just got a great run out of Ford and outbraked him down into the Dunlop hairpin. Up at the top, Ostergaard in second place has got the bit between his teeth. He's trying to chase down Montañez, set the fastest lap of the race. However, he is still over a second behind Jorge.
Joe, this battle back here for 6th place is intense right now. You've got Luca Furlick leading the way and Stefan Schmidt behind him, Evan Lathoras. Just a tremendous about Rob Bower in that.
Wow, big trade of cars.
Yeah.
We saw Lathoras put up some great fights last week. Let's see what he can do this time. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was Lathoras who was the head of the train before last week, as he got a great start, gained some positions, and then was slowly overtaken. This time, bit of a reverse of that position as he's behind the car of Schmidt, and then Luca Furlick a little bit up the road as they work their way through the Schumacher S. I was a bit surprised that they couldn't stay flat out through there.
I was too. Oh, no, Lathoras off.
Rob Bower absolutely plowing through that car, and his car disappears, actually. Trying to see if that was a incident limit. That's very early for that to happen. Might have been a connection issue with him disappearing so quickly after. The way that he drove through Lathoris's car, that's really what makes me suspect it was a connection issue. He probably did not see him at all.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what we're looking at there, Joe, and that is just really unfortunate for them.
Tommy Ostgaard has got himself within the DRS range of Jorge Montañez now. Battle for the lead, starting to heat up. He's within 9/10, so not within striking range right now, but this DRS, if he keeps his pace up, could get him into a great position to try and make an attack.
I think he's going to get a chance here, Joe. Has a good run out of Dunlop.
Through the Schumacher S, holding station about that 9/10. So hard to follow in the wake of each other.
Ooh, and a slight mistake by Montañez there.
Yeah, that turn 11 could be trickier than you would think as they work their way up towards the chicane that gained about half a tenth for Ostgaard. Braking heavily down into this left-right. Gains another tenth. Ostgaard looking good in the slowing zones. And now, out of that final chicane, he gets that DRS once again as that flap is going to flip open. But not quite close enough as they slow the cars down for the first quarter. Didn't really gain them a whole lot either. These cars do have the energy recovery system, just like they have on the real cars, or had on the real cars, this being a couple-year-old Formula One car now. So it makes me wonder if Montañez maybe used that as his defense to try and keep Ostgaard back on the front stretch.
You know, and it's very, very possible, Joe, that that recovery system really affects the balance of the car. You've got a couple different settings there to adjust for that, whether it be adaptive or fixed. Adaptive seems to be exactly what it says. It seems to be the way to go in these cars. But again, you know, the whole profile of the car changes with that recovery system.
A little bit farther back at the tail of that train we were looking at before, Jan Brzezina still working hard on Benjamin Lindsay. So unfortunately, Jan's bad start to this race has not really recovered yet. Still early, it's only lap 7, but I would have thought by now at least gotten a couple more cars. Oh, Ostgaard off at the final quarter.
Wow, did he miss the braking on that?
He just speared it off.
He did, Joe. It was strange. I thought initially maybe he missed the braking zone, and the car just kept going.
Watch on board.
Boy,
he didn't lock up either.
No, and it almost looks like he didn't even try to turn right. The car just continued.
Maybe his screen blacked out, or if he's on VR, maybe his VR set blacked on him.
He just chimed in, controllers froze. Jeez.
Well, even though it is sim racing, much like the real world, you do experience technical problems that can set you out of the race at no fault of your own. Well, this gives a huge gap to Montañez as Nicholas Rasmussen inherits second, but is 5.7 seconds back of Jorge.
Yeah, that's quite a gap, indeed, Joe. You know, we could compare that controller failure to maybe a loose wheel nut, maybe something.
So that gives us 2 DNFs already. Tommy Ostgaard and Ollie Cuoca have exited the race, and I'm seeing Evan Lathoris, unfortunately, also has come into the pits. Oh, Kevin Fortman is in and out. Now, did he have some issues? Because this is a little early for a scheduled stop, isn't it?
Boy, it was only a 19-second stop.
Well, he was in the last lap as well, I'm seeing, as I look back.
Yeah. That was the second stop, yeah.
I think he just came in a couple times to see what damage he could get repaired. Maybe just wasn't happy with the pace of the car. Well, Ollie Kwaka has come to talk to us. We heard from him in the IndyCar yesterday, asked him about how he felt about these two different cars. Now we get to talk to him, unfortunately, a little bit early, about the Formula One car. Ollie, it is another premature end to the race, sadly.
Yeah, it is. I would have liked to run a little bit more, especially after yesterday was quite eventful in terms of doing some mileage, but today it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, it seems like this has been a bit of a hectic start for some people. Tell us about the few laps that you were able to do out there, because it seems like you had a bit of a coming together that ended it.
Yeah, well, the start initially, I mean, with the new clutch system, with the second clutch that was introduced to the McLaren, I had a bit of trouble in practicing with that, but it worked out really, really well at the main start. I was able to gain, I think, 6 or 7 positions to turn 1 in, and then I just had too much understeer because I dialed out front wing just by 1 click, but that made too much of a difference for me, so I was just going with the pack, and then I got attacked by, I'm not quite sure who he was, but yeah, he just showed himself behind me. He was, I don't know, 2 or 3 car lengths back, and but he braked very, very, very late, and I just saw that on my mirrors, turned in, left him a little bit of room because I thought, okay, he will definitely be on my inside once I'm in the corner, and then I just got rear-ended completely, turned around, and the car was just damaged beyond repairs, fortunately.
Sad to hear. Yeah, that was Peo Peeve who you had contact with, unfortunately. The good news is you have a bit of a fan watching. Floris Bashar wants us to let you know he said hi.
Hey, fellas. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I can start practicing for the next week. So hopefully this will give me an advantage.
Well, glad to see you can put a positive spin on it. Commiserations, Ollie.
Thanks, man. Good luck for the race. Have fun.
That was Ollie Kwaka, who unfortunately is going to finish last today. But we're watching this battle for 5th. Look at Luca Furlick. We were riding on board for a long time. It's not him who has to worry. Stefan Schmidt has a car to his inside. Can't go to the apex because look at Peo Peeve. That time he gets a successful move. And the cars behind them come together as Schmidt and Parkins make contact. Oh, and then Parkins with a little bit of a tip from Brezina, but they keep it together.
Just the fact that Brezina is back in a battle is amazing, Joe. He's recovered very well. He's looking up the inside here.
Oh, don't know how those cars kept apart, but he missed the apex just like Peeve did before. Let's watch the replay from Brezina's view.
How are we not seeing wing components just flying off there? I don't know.
I was gonna say, as we rode on board, is that the moment, Sean, we were going, oh no, oh no, oh no. Well, it all worked out as it looks like that's going to move Furlick down to 6th and Peeve up to 5th, Schmidt down to 7th. A lot of shuffling in that last lap. That really was almost a chain reaction. As soon as that one move happened, it was just 3 or 4 little moves that happened behind. So we look at Peeve now running within that top 5. He's got a lot more work to do to get higher up because Calistani is a 6.5-second gap up in 4th. In fact, Calistani, as we take a peek at him, well, Vesti got by him a number of laps ago, but he's not been able to shake the Italian driver.
No, Joe hasn't been able to shake him yet. There's still a long way to go in this race, though. So patience right now, I think, is patience and pace. Let's say that's what you need right now. A little bit of patience and decent pace. We've still got several really, really good battles here, but the two up front, Jorge Montañez and Nicholas Rasmussen, they are definitely the class of the field right now. They've gotten a pretty good break on everybody else.
Good news for them, bad news for the rest of the drivers. Also, really glad to see that we do have the Italian representative, even though Real World F1 has been missing out on drivers from there for a little bit now. Although no Americans here today like we had one last week.
We had some practicing, and I'm wondering if they fell off into that split.
Could be. It's very hard in this strength of field to get to the top in the McLaren MP4-30. Boy, Calistani starting to put the pressure on. He regained some ground. It drifted up to about 0.7 of a second. It's now down to 0.5, and he's going to get the DRS if he can just get himself a good exit off the final corner. It's down to 0.4 of a second. I'm not sure if he's quite close enough.
Gonna get a good run on him. He's gonna go to the inside, Joe. No, not there. He wasn't there.
Yeah, that was just showing his nose, I'm pretty sure. Once again, didn't really gain anything. Stayed at about 0.4. I suspect a lot of drivers may be using that battery, deploying it on the front stretch to keep themselves safe. Holding station behind him. A little bit farther down, we've got a similar battle going on between Schmidt and Brezina.
Yeah, Brezina really fighting hard here. Lost a lot of positions in the opening of the race, but since then has been hard on the hammer. He's got Schmidt right where he wants him here for a DRS opportunity coming up.
Yeah, Brezina started in at 6th, and he's right now in 8th, so he's almost back to where he started, which is a pretty good accomplishment if you do have those issues early on. So we ride on Brezina's nose, coming up to turn 11. Sometimes a place where you see passes happen. Not here. These two starting to gain ground on Furlick, actually. And you see Schmidt, because of Furlick ahead of him, get his DRS open.
Yeah, and that hurt. That hurt Jan Brezina. He wasn't able to get quite as good a run because of the deployment of the DRS there by Schmidt, but now he's got him back in his sights here. Another DRS opportunity.
Oh, and Vest, did something happen to Vesti? I thought we got some information. May have had an issue into turn 1. Oh, had to take evasive action because Calistani, look at that, had a go at him, but just could not get the power down without losing the rears.
Let's go on board Calistani and take a look at it here.
That PTS car did get stopped, but not before he almost found the edge, the outside edge of the first corner. And great job by Frederick Vesti to see that coming and then have the composure to just put the car back underneath him and scamper off into the lead, or into the second, rather. Third. I'll get it right eventually, Sean.
Yeah.
I'll go through all the positions. One of them's right. That battle back for 6, still very hot.
Really one of the best battles we've got on track right now. Furlick still able to hold just a little bit of an edge, but here we go, pass right behind him. Schmidt under attack here from Jan Brezina. Brezina going to get by him in the chicane, Joe. Oh!
Loses traction. These slow corners don't have a lot of downforce to help you, and there's so much power in these cars. He holds on to the spot, but Schmidt had to slow up, and that's got Parkins right behind him. Don't forget Ben Lindsay in the popcorn position behind them. They spread out as they come down to the first quarter. Parkins ducking to the inside of Schmidt, and he gets it done. Schmidt's not done, though. Here comes Lindsay trying to go around the outside of the first corner in the Mercedes arena and just can't hold on.
And quick update, Calistani came in, Joe. Got his pit. 27.9 seconds.
Ooh, 15 of 40. I'd say that's a one-stopper. Car's going to be lighter, Sean. 25 laps out on these tires.
Well, definitely doable. I'm not hating on the strategy. That might be a really, really good play. It certainly got him out of the traffic.
I wonder if that's what he's thinking, especially after he locked him up down into turn 1. Of course, they don't have flat spots in these cars, but they can overheat the tires in that way. As we look back at this battle between Brezina, Parkins, Schmidt, and Lindsay. Oh, Lindsay with a mistake out of Bilstein.
Yeah, Lindsay having a tough race, Joe. Up 7 spots, but boy, has not been able to seem to get through this crowd here. It looks like this is where it stopped for him for now.
Unfortunately. You know, one thing, now that we've seen this a couple times with these cars, Sean, one thing that I like about these MP430s compared to the modern formula that the drivers are racing this year and last year is the lesser downforce. I really feel like it makes the drivers work. Makes it difficult to wheel them around this track.
Agreed, Joe. It's not as automatic and as easy to drive. Oh boy, Lindsay gets on top of the curb right there coming out of turn 5.
As illustrated yet again by Benjamin. Let's watch from on board. Let's watch the hands here. Woohoo! Good catch by him. Just a very quick snap and no more sawing at the wheel from him.
Yeah, I'm off into the concrete there.
Me too. 7th, Stefan Schmidt may have been overtaken by Parkins down into turn 1 a couple laps ago, but he's trying to reverse that order as they come through Bilstein. He's going to get the DRS with how close he is behind that McLaren. So we ride on board the Affinity machine, riding in his tire tracks, but I don't think he's close enough into the chicane. Wow, came close to getting him.
He did, but that came at a little bit of a cost. But here we go. Back to the DRS zone. Battle here for 5th. Here we go, Joe.
Brezina continues his climb. He's got back to where he started. This time, it's Luca Furlick up ahead of him. Furlick with a defensive move down into the inside of turn 1. And he's going to hold on to it as Jan Brezina has no answer in the over-under. Stays tight behind him, though. Keeps the pressure on. Furlick with a great run today. He started 8th. He's sitting in 5th right now.
Well, he's played good defense here so far.
I think the biggest mover of the race that we've got is Frederick Vesti sitting in 3rd. He started 10th, and he's got up onto the podium.
Yeah, he's been hustling, man. The Scandinavian not playing around here in Germany.
Now, I'm curious about Vesti's lap times because it was Calistani that he was fighting with before. 33.7, 33.2, 33.8. What is Calistani running? 33.3 was his last lap time. Oh, I don't think this is going to allow him to jump him unless he can pick up the pace.
Yeah, I agree with that, Joe. He's going to have to find better pace here if there's any chance of staying in this podium spot.
Oh, got 2 more pitters, Brezina and Furlick. Schmidt follows them as well.
Out on track, Rasmussen just had a bit of a mistake there. Joe slowed him down just a bit. He was able to recover and get back on the wheel.
Well, that has increased the gap up to 10 seconds behind Jorge Montañez. Pretty much everybody taking tires. Of course, well, they have to take tires in this series. Nobody's taking fuel. Oh. Now, Schmidt beat everybody out. Look at the battle behind them as well. Well, this is going to get interesting. Jan Brezina going to be the first to get to the corner. Around the outside, that's Luca Furlick. Got overtaken in the pits. Vlad Tokarev gained a ton of ground on these two. Now, remember, we had the contact for Jan on the first corner.
That
Probably
was
took a new wing.
He did, Joe. He did. He's got that wing back under him. Still, mounted a great charge with that damaged wing.
Certainly did. I almost would have said he didn't really need to change it. Rasmussen comes in for his stop. Now, where did Luca Furlick have damage? Because I would assume he also had a wing change. I'm trying to remember where he got that from. Can you clatter over these curbs hard enough, Sean, that you damage the front wing?
Not these curbs, Joe. You can upset the car, definitely, but boy, clipping the wing, maybe in the last chicane, possibly.
Benjamin Lindsay, we see entering, taking his stop. What we're really waiting to see when he pits is Frederick Vesti. We're almost exactly halfway through the race. Can't imagine many cars trying to take it much farther than that on this first set of tires. Tanguy Pedrozzoli has taken his stop. Comes out just behind Vlad Tokarev in 12th. Oh, and our leader is pitting.
Jorge Montañez coming in. Get some fresh rubber on that car.
And so far, Sean, we haven't seen any embarrassing moments on the pit entry. That's always one thing I'm a little bit afraid of, because it's basically a hairpin on the entry, as we see Vesti take it successfully as well.
Yeah, you can get yourself in a little bit of trouble on an entry. It's not easy.
And is that Peeve? Yes, that's Peeve coming in behind that we saw. So Vesti getting down to his stall. Our leader in and out. No troubles there with the gap that he had. Did not expect any sort of overtaking to be happening there. Here's Calistini coming on the front stretch, and I don't think he's close enough. Vesti's exiting now. It's a short run from the pit exit down to the first hairpin. A little close, but Calistini just did not have enough pace on those fresh tires to get himself onto the podium. Calistani, excuse me. Is that everybody in for a stop?
It is, Joe.
It is.
Yes. I'll tell you what, one of the big gainers on those stops was Benjamin Lindsay. Lindsay sitting in 6th right now. He's got a big gap between him and Peeve, but Lindsay up 10 spots now, Joe, sits himself in 6th place. And it looks like the battle may be heating up for 3rd as Calistani wants to get back on the podium.
He's just right on the cusp of the DRS zone. He's got to pick up the pace if he wants to get it here. Last time across the timing, he's just over it, 1.033. I don't think he's going to get it. That's got to be frustrating. Going to get another bite of it, though, if he can have good braking here through the chicane. Watching that gap carefully. Calistani doing all he can. It's down to 0.999, just exactly what he needs. Is he going to get it across there? Yes, he does. Great outlap by Matteo.
Release the hounds.
So you mentioned Lindsay having a great gain in the pit stops. I'd say that's really down to Lindsay, I think, being the only one that didn't have contact with another car, because you think about Schmidt, Brezina, and apparently Furlick as well. All who were around him had troubles with somebody at some point, so they all had to take repairs. So there's something to be said about a steady run and just keeping out of trouble.
Absolutely, and it doesn't take much to damage the wing on these cars, so contact is just, you've got to avoid it at all costs.
So with the pit, go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, we've seen what the contact early on has done for some pretty big hitters, and Osgaard and Ali Cuoca and Evan Lathoris now, of course, out of this race. So, yeah, the contact costly and damage hard to repair.
With pit stops completed for every driver, let's run through the field real quickly. If you're just joining us, get you up to date. Jorge Montañez, he started it on the pole. Well, he really hasn't looked back since the start. He had a great run off the line, just hasn't been challenged at all. Nicholas Rasmussen, well, he's started from 5th and gotten up to 2nd onto the podium. Great job from him, as he's really in kind of no man's land. He's 9 seconds behind Montañez, a whole 6 seconds ahead of Frederick Vesti, driver of the race for me, starting 10th onto the podium, and he's been fitting off Calistani pretty much this whole race. Matteo sits in 4th behind him. Peo Pieve rounds out our top 5. He's been up and down the order and has been a little bit naughty with a bit of a failed move in turn 1 earlier on. Sean?
And we move past Pieve to Benjamin Lindsay, who, as I mentioned, is up 10 spots, the big mover in the field right now. And Benjamin doing his very best here to make a race out of it between him and Stefan Schmidt. Or I'm sorry, Benjamin trying to get to Pieve, but it's about a 6.5 second gap. Stefan Schmidt sits back in 7th, and he is a little bit further back behind Lindsay, but that is 7th. Gian Brenzina having a good recovery run here so far, up to 8th, but still would like to get a couple more of those spots back. He lost to go to 9th. It's Luca Frelich, and it's been a tough drive for him so far, but he finds himself in 9th. And followed by him in 10th is Vlad Tokarev, who we've really not even talked about much, Joe. Vlad, well, he's been one of those drivers in this race who's kind of kept his head down and tried to stay out of trouble for the most part.
Speaking of staying out of trouble, Tanguy Pedrozzoli sadly was not able to. I think this was into the last chicane just recently. Oh no, actually, wow, this is a bizarre place to lose it. It's through the kink.
You think he tapped the brake a little bit, maybe?
I don't know.
That was odd.
We'll watch on board. Now, the DRS would have been open here, but I wouldn't think that would loosen up the rear that much.
Ooh. Yeah, DRS was definitely open right there. But, you know, honestly, Joe, it looked like the car started to slide just a little bit out of the kink, and he did not make the correct adjustment there. That's going to hurt.
Yeah, we saw Lindsay earlier on make a good correction. That was a bad correction as we look at Kevin Fortman running in at 12th. Oh, and Fortman had an issue here as well. He's in the pits right now. Oh, a little bit too much wheel spin off the corner. Putting that Red Bull McLaren off into the grass. Back up to 7th, driver who really has gotten lots of screen time, Stefan Schmidt. Another driver who's gotten lots of screen time, Jan Brezina, giving us great battles here. He's going to get the DRS once again. Down into turn 1, just not close enough to make an effort.
Joe, I've been watching the battle just behind them, Luca Frelich and Vlad Tokarev going at it. But Ryan Parkins is now into that mix too. He's sitting just outside of it. But these 3 cars, I think, are probably going to change position at some point here in the end, because Tokarev has really good pace right now, and he keeps threatening Frelich. Frelich, I keep saying Frelich. Frelich is really under threat here.
Oh, he's very close, down, heading towards the Dunlop hairpin. No DRS here, though, so I don't think he's going to get an opportunity. Waits behind him through that banked right-hander, sets himself up for the runoff. Look at how much closer he is. This is going to be the tough heart, right into the wake. Oh, he was way off coming through the Schumacher S, and that lost him time, puts him under attack, because here comes Ryan Parkins. can't sit it into 11. Down to the DRS zone. Parkins going to have it open up. Oh, but a good defense from Vlad keeps him safe. Oh, and that's Furlick, or no, that's Brezina.
That's Brezina with big trouble. Oh, just behind him. Man, a lot going on here. Vlad had a wiggle out of his car and almost lost it. Able to catch it down the DRS zone now across the front straight here, Joe. Big action.
See if anybody makes a dive. Everybody stayed in line pretty much. A little bit of a look from Parkins. Now, I looked back at the replay of what if we could find it. Brezina had a similar incident to what we saw not long ago going through the kink. You hear that? Yeah, there it is there. He was a lot closer to the car ahead. You know, Sean, I wonder, as the cars get light, maybe the balance is changing?
Well, the balance is changing. And with so many adjustments you can make on this car to the energy recovery system, a lot of adjustments just within there can really actually affect the balance of the car, as I mentioned earlier. But with that fuel load, you've got to continue to be progressive on your changes on the car to keep up with that.
Don't know if it's worth getting a replay, but you may notice that Tokarev is no longer in this group. Well, he spun the tires coming out of the Mercedes arena. Unfortunately, that lost him the spot to Parkins and lost him contact with this group of three.
Well, we talk about losing contact. Brezina is starting to really pull away here now, Joe. Although they still won just under a second there. Furlick back behind him. Maybe not quite away far enough yet.
You can see the track starting to rubber in as well. That can change the handling of the car. Parkins squirming under the power out of that last hairpin, trying to get every inch of momentum out of this car. Just not enough down into the first corner. Now down to 15 laps left to go. Drivers starting to run out of laps to do something if they're in a battle.
This car is so wicked fast, Joe. It doesn't seem like we've gotten to that point where we're, now with close to 10 to go. It's like, where did this race go? It's been very exciting and very fast. We're still turning 132s out here on track.
This is the closest battle in the field between Parkins and Furlick. This is for 9th position. They use the regular iRacing points for the championship here, so it's not down to the top 10 like in the real world. All the drivers will score points.
And I wonder if the damage on Parkins' car is affecting his ability to have an overtake here. It's not wing damage. He's got some significant side pod damage on that machine. And again, just not sure how that may be affecting his handling. But he just seems to have kind of hit a wall here, Joe, and not able to get himself around Luca.
He's a lot closer this time, though. DRS slots open down towards the first corner. Still a little bit far back. Furlick bobbles to the inside just to cover him off. No move yet.
It just didn't seem like he got enough pull there with the wing open, Joe.
I think Furlick knew the deal. I think he was getting onto that energy deployment button to try and keep himself safe. And these guys are absolutely now losing touch with Brezina. Not having to worry about the cars behind, he streaks away.
Well, what Brezina sees in his relative is that he's got a legitimate chance to catch up to Stefan Schmidt before this race is over and just keep the pace.
Schmidt is who he was working on before he lost the car through the kink. Right on board with Furlick, looking back at the car of Parkins. Out of Bilstein they come. Parkins gets another bite from the DRS. Seen a few cars lose it here through this kink. These two, nice and steady. Ooh, Parkins looked much more solid through the last chicane than Furlick did. I think this is going to be his best chance onto the front stretch yet again. And yet again, Furlick just finds better traction out of that last corner to keep himself safe. So it's got to be incredibly frustrating for Parkins. Go ahead, Sean.
Just ahead of them, Brezina is closing. As I suspected, he's picked up another almost 4/10 of a second. The gap is closing now. It's 3/10 of a second away from being DRS eligible here for Brezina. So the fight is definitely still on here.
Just 3 more tenths for Brezina to go to get that slot to come open in the designated zones. You're not missing anything up front. It's 11 seconds between first and second and 5 seconds between P2 and P3. So really no battle to watch up there. It's still Montañez, Rasmussen, Vesti for those top 3.
Well, what we do have to watch out for, and you alluded to this before with the tank getting much lighter on these cars, is a mistake. And I forget now who that was who had in the kink there, turn 13, Joe, that the car just kind of broke on him and he slid off track. We're going to have to look out for things like that because as it does lighten up, strange things will happen if you're not on top of your adjustments.
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K, or at least at the ring. As Parkins gets that DRS one more time, and swing the camera around, but one more time, just can't get the car close enough.
You know, Joe, I have
a lot closer that time.
I have a Circle K just down the road.
Boy, Furlick is doing a great job withstanding the pressure. A little bit off topic, but I saw that they had a photo between those two recently, Sean. Now into what? That would be their 40s? 40s or 50s? Oh, was this an issue for Schmidt as Brezina gets him? That was down into Dunlop. Let's watch the replay.
Boy, it almost like maybe Schmidt made a mistake and then just decided to give it up.
I think he must have had a slowdown somewhere.
No, he let him go. Stays alive to fight another day, and he's got himself in the DRS zone. So maybe the plan is to give him a little space and then fight back here. When they come across the line, it'll be 11 laps to go.
Well, unfortunately, that puts Schmidt down into 8th. You know, looking actually, Schmidt started 14th, so that kind of makes sense. Actually, he's not too worried about that one position. Thinks I've gained a lot of spots this race. Let's just get to the end, not worry about a battle going wrong. Parkins still the closest battle on Furlick, and Furlick still holding him off lap after lap.
Well, hats off to Parkins. He's done a good job of being patient here and hasn't seemed to overdriven the car, Joe. There's definitely a little bit left in it, maybe for a charge at the end. I'm, again, still a little bit concerned about that side pod damage he's got, and I wonder how much of that actually may be affecting his ability to get around for him.
Well, the other question, too, is how much drag is that adding to the car? Because we saw last week that our winner had to conserve fuel as well. And we haven't, you mentioned that, they have to put in the fuel that takes them to the end. Well, the energy recovery system can be a variable in that. So these drivers can get it wrong. You can find themselves having to worry and conserve towards the end. And they break up into the final chicane one more time. Now down to 10 laps to go. Pretty much every single car went for a one-stop strategy. Only driver out there who's taken more than one, who's still going at least, is Kevin Fortman. Currently the last car on track, actually, sitting in 12th. Oh, a little bit of a dive around the outside. Parkins had a look. And just to demoralize the other drivers even more, Jorge Montañez is the only car running in the 31-second range right now. 13 seconds is what he's increased the gap to.
Joe, sometimes it's your day, sometimes it's not. I would say at this point it's Jorge Montañez's day, as he's had just an incredible drive out here.
That PTS machine is looking solid. This will be, I believe, the second week in a row that the broadcast race has been won by that team. Here we see Rasmussen in a little bit of a fight. Oh, excuse me, that was a lapped car. That was Kevin Fortman, actually, we just mentioned. He was getting by. And then we jump down to Vesti. Vesti has got himself away from Calistani by 7 seconds. The Italian just has had no answer.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he continues to slide down. And boy, I hope he can continue. Calistani can continue his pace. I mean, Peeve is only what? He's just under 4 seconds behind him.
Peeves running 32s pretty consistently. Had one off lap at a 34.1. Must have had a mistake in there. And yeah, Calistani's running 33. So at this rate, Peeve might actually run him down.
Yeah, he very well could. I mean, we're running out of time, but still, the pace is better.
He's only got 3.7 seconds to gain and 8 laps to do it. Now, the real question is, even if he can catch him, there's that age-old question, can he pass him?
Somebody's got to get out and milk the rooster. So we'll see. It's going to be close, though, Joe. I think that'll go down to the wire for that 4th position.
Well, a driver who was unfortunately gone much earlier in the race, Tommy Osgaard, has rocked up to the booth to say hi. So why don't we bring Tommy in and talk to him about his race. Tommy, it's sad to see you get an early shower.
Sorry, I was turning my headset on.
It's okay. So, looks like it's going to be a DNF today. Did you have confidence coming into the Nürburgring? Did you feel like a good result was on the cards?
Well, to be honest, I didn't know what to expect. I did a World Championship race yesterday, so I didn't get much practice in. So just turned up and hoped for the best. And yeah, I thought I could win this race. I had a good start, and I felt quite confident behind Jorge, and I felt I had more pace. But then, yeah, my pedals froze. So yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah, when you had that incident, you were gaining on Jorge. We've seen that he's really had pace over everybody else. I mean, was there a battle coming up? Was there a battle brewing there between you and him?
Yeah, I think we could have had a nice race, for sure. I think we would have a nice battle, and I think the pit stops could be quite interesting.
On screen, we're watching the replay of Vlad Tokarev through the Schumacher S's, just lost the car and thankfully kept it out of the barriers. Well, Tommy, next week we are going to head out to the little bit more traditional Silverstone out over in the UK. Do you see yourself maybe taking the win out there?
I will try, for sure. Silverstone is like my home track. I used to live like 10 minutes away, and I actually worked at Silverstone. So, and I've driven a lot of races there. So,
Parkin's making the move on Frelick. Sorry there, guys. Down into turn 1, Joe. We've got a replay from above here.
A little bit of argy-bargy to make it work, but they both get through. Great stuff, because that was a long time coming from Ryan Parkins. So watch that replay. Well, Tommy, I hope you are able to get a home win in that case. That is very cool that you used to work there. Before we let you go, what did you do out there?
I used to work as a sim coach and developer, so I worked at something called iZone Drive Performance with Andy Prio. So basically coaching drivers preparing for Formula 3 and other races.
Very cool stuff. Commiserations, and we'll let you go because it looks like Brezina has had more problems.
Yep. Ouch. Looked like it was just out of what would be turn 9 there, Joe.
Is this the same spot? Yes, it is. Oh, that was almost identical, except he actually hit the wall. Wow, these cars, I'm surprised at how much they're struggling in these fast corners as the car gets light. He didn't touch the curb on the way in either. He touched the outside curb, but not the inside. As we... Oh, and Furlick with a replay too. Let's see. Is this... Oh, he's coming up to the kink. Did something happen here?
Oh! Joe!
Still nothing out of the chicane. There it is. Loops it around out of the chicane. Sean, did you spot something else while we were watching the replay?
Yeah, big trouble down into turn 1. Brezina and Furlick, they are just going to get together. They got together down into turn 1. It was Brezina that tries to make the bold move up on the inside. Here's the replay. And Joe, they're just going to lock them up here.
Oh, and they get all sorts of tangled. Furlick is able to come away with it. Boy, everything was just building for so long in so many of these battles, and now they all erupt.
Hated to step on your replay call there. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So this moves Brezina down to 10th, Furlick to 9th. Now down to 5 laps to go.
You've got hot tires. You've got a light fuel load right now. These closing laps, you got to be so careful.
Oh, and Furlick actually spun them out of the chicane again. Caught it and gathered it back together. So many drivers just struggling. So that makes me wonder if any of our top 3 might have some issues. Or are their cars solid towards the end of the run?
Peeve still reeling in Calistani.
It's now down to 1.7 seconds. Oh, he's not making the gains that I thought he would. I wonder if Calistani has turned up the wick. He has slightly, down to 33.1 and a 33 flat the last 2 laps. And those are actually... Oh, wait, no, those are old laps that I'm looking at. Sorry. Need to scroll down. 33.2, 33.2. So very consistent for Calistani.
Yeah, and maybe Calistani is just being very calculated about this, trying to play it safe and keep him in the mirror at the same time. Maybe he's got him right where he wants him and may not let him get any closer at this point.
Just bit by bit chipping away. 32.8, 32.5, 32.6 for Peeve. Curious to see where exactly he's faster too, because it doesn't look like he's gaining here in the twisty bits as they come out of the Mercedes arena. But I think Furlick's got to worry because Brezina has caught back up to him again. And he knows it. Furlick goes to the inside, deep into the braking for Brezina. Trying to go the long way around. He's now going to have the inside. Oh, and he tips him for the second time this race. He gets into Furlick, and Furlick disappears. That looks like an incident cap to me. Meanwhile, Vlad to the inside sees all the action going on ahead of him. We're looking at the replay here. Let's stay on with Brezina because he's trying to recover. And to his left now, there goes Vlad. Advantageous stuff for Tokarev.
Well, it really, really was.
That's 2 spots and a couple corners, getting him up to 9th.
So Tokarev starting to flex a little bit of muscle here late in the race, Joe.
If anything, not really flexing muscle, just yawning while everybody else around him falls away.
Oh, and a big mistake there by Brezina.
And
Oh, and Brezina's gone.
Into the ether he goes. Instant cap met for Brezina.
Honestly, I was surprised he hadn't already hit it, but we knew he was close. Sad to see him go.
You know, Sean, I didn't expect attrition to be a factor in this race, but starting with 17 cars, we're down to 10 left on the track. Kevin Fortman, the last one running.
I am
a lap down.
Like you, I am surprised, Joe. I really am. But I'm still keeping an eye on Peeve and his progress trying to catch Calistani. He's got it down to 1.4, Joe. Can he get to 1 second here in these last 2.5 laps? Can he use the DRS to his advantage?
I wonder if he's starting to stall out now that he's getting within that wake and it's getting harder to follow the car ahead. So it comes down to 1.2 seconds now for Peeve. Last lap between them, there was 3/10 difference. We're going to come and cross the line. Calistani, as he comes across, is going to get a 33.2. Peeve, a 33 flat, 2/10 the difference that time, but that is not enough to get him within the DRS zone.
It's really the only chance you have for any help outside of someone making a mistake.
This is going to be a critical lap. Now 2 to go. I really think he's only going to get about 1 bite at this.
I think you're right, Joe. Still sitting there at 1.2 seconds.
Not missing anything else. This is really the closest battle we've got. And this is for 4th position, just off the podium after 40 laps. If you're just joining us here, we're round 3 for the iRacing Grand Prix Series. These 40 laps have been chock full of action all throughout the field. And he's got it within DRS range. He's going to get it here, and he's going to get it 2 more times. Once on the front stretch and 1 more time on the run-up. His wing didn't go up.
It did not deploy. No.
Oh.
He's going to get it here, coming out of the last turn.
Coming around there onto the front stretch. He is absolutely within it, but he is not close enough, probably. We're going to have to step away from these two because Jorge Montañez with half a lap to go. He was under threat very briefly. Tommy Osgaard thought he had good pace, thought that he could do something with him, but unfortunately his equipment had other ideas today. So on the ring, Montañez, the Iberian driver, going to add that trophy to his collection. Through the kink 1 more time. Now just a couple quarters to go. Up and slowing it down into the chicane, continuing to climb the hill to the front stretch. Jorge Montañez rounds that final corner, crosses the line, and takes the win here at the Nürburgring.
Peeve going to get 1 more chance here, Joe. It's going to be really, really close. Wing is open.
He's pretty close to him. This is going to be tight. Rasmussen, we can confirm, to get 2nd. Vesti's going to get 3rd. Calistani's trying it. Oh, he runs into him. And he's going to slow. Peeve
gets into the back of Calistani, lets him gather his car together, does not want to take the position in that manner. Calistani with fourth.
He was digging and just got in too hot, Joe. Plain and simple, just cooked it.
I'm not surprised. Not that he hit him, but that he was trying his hardest to get up there and see if he could do something.
He didn't hit him that hard, but it was obviously in a horrible spot. The car's trying to turn and gets a little help turning.
He knew this was his last opportunity, so he had to send it in deep, and you could see him start to panic as they came for the apex. It's the last of our cars come to cross the line. We are going to head to break. We'll be back after you see all the upcoming races here on your screen, but don't go away because we've got driver interviews as well as official results after this. Welcome back to the Nürburgring. We just watched round 3 of the iRacing Grand Prix Series here on Easter weekend. It was a good race out there, so happy Easter to everybody, and a happy Easter to Jorge Montañez,
who hopped his way down the muddy trail to a P1. Nicholas Rasmussen, starting 5th, gets himself a well-earned 2nd, although he was a long ways back from Jorge, really had no hope of trying to take the win away from him. Frederick Vesti, 10th to 3rd. Boy, that was a good one for Frederick. And he really had to work for it because Matteo Calistani, for a while, was trying to fight him. Calistani eventually dropped off. He took a 4th, and not without a little bit of contact with himself and Peeve. Peeve, of course, doing the sportsmanlike thing, let Calistani have the position and settled for 5th, not wanting to take it in bad circumstances. Benjamin Lindsay, 16th to 6th, mover of the race. Benjamin Lindsay, great job to you. Stefan Schmidt takes a 7th, and Ryan Parkins gets 8th today. First car lap down, Vlad Tokarev finishes in 9th, and last car to finish the race, Kevin Fortman in 10th. Sean?
All right, Joe, and in 11th, it's going to be Luca Furlick settling there in 11th. 12th going to go to Jan Brzezina. Tanguy Pedrolozzi will finish the 13th today. 14th going to go to Rob Bower. Tommy Osgaard will go with 15th. 16th, Evan Lathoris, and Ali Kwoka, we got a chance to talk to, finished 17th today, Joe.
Well, Sean, this is your first time getting to cover the iGPS series. Thoughts on getting to watch these McLaren MP4-30s go around a historic German track? I know I enjoyed this one just as much as the first.
Well, Joe, it's always cool seeing a Formula One car on a Formula One track, and you know what? I'm fascinated with the McLaren. I was a big fan of the Williams, and the McLaren was a nice change of flavor. I really love this car. I'm gonna get more time in the seat. It's not one I've been able to drive much. I just got my A license on the roadside here for the first time ever. So I plan to maybe try and run the series a little bit, and get out there and have a little bit of fun. But it's very technical, and it requires one heck of a driver, and I'm neither one of those. So it may be an epic failure. We'll see. But this race today was not an epic failure, I can assure you. It was a lot of fun watching the fight there towards the end.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we didn't have anybody who was able to close up and thank a few people before we go. A huge thank you to the iGPS community, as I don't know if we could bring back that graphic on the screen of our donators. There we go. All the drivers who came forward to help make this broadcast happen. And of course, thanks to Jan Brzezina for approaching us to broadcast this series. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast. They're listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Or you can check us out on social media. We're on GSR Channel, and we're on Twitter at GSR Channel. We're on Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram now at GSRC Graham, GSRC_Graham. Also, don't forget, there's that big red subscribe button on our YouTube page. Go and click that if you want to catch all the upcoming races of GSRC. The next race is going to be at Silverstone. That'll be Sunday, April 8th at 10 a.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.